It's Security Weekly News, and it's episode 359, which I don't know why, but that number always sounds like it should be dirty to me, but it's not. Not that I know of. If you know some reason it's dirty, let me know. But anyway, I'm Doug White, and it is Friday the 2nd of February, 2024. We've got E-Coli, Mercedes, Cloudflare, Ivanti, Volt, Typhoon, GIGO, AI, Congress, Aaran Leyland, and more on this edition of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News.
Hi, folks. I'm Adrian Sanabria, the host of Enterprise Security Weekly. Every week, we interview the most interesting folks we can find talking about the most pressing cybersecurity issues and challenges facing the enterprise today. Myself and my co-hosts have each been in the industry for decades, long enough to see the patterns in the industry and explore where trends are going. In addition to enterprise challenges, we also follow the vendor space, the most interesting security startups emerging, technology and product trends, all of the most interesting funding and acquisition announcements. Finally, we love to discuss the latest trends in tech and how they'll impact cybersecurity. If you're wondering how the latest in AI, quantum computing, cloud, and DevOps is going to impact security a few years down the road, you should follow the Enterprise Security Weekly podcast.
All right, welcome to the Security Weekly News. Sorry about Tuesday, and thanks to Aaran Leyland, who's always amazing and fills in and looks better than I do, so what are you going to do? But sometimes you just really shouldn't have bought sushi from that guy that was standing with a stoplight. I mean, even if you're hungry, the guy with a hamper and he's selling, but you got to support small business, right? And I supported several other small businesses later that pay toilet. Yeah, those guys are rich. All right. A Mercedes-Benz employee leaked a GitHub token and basically gave open access to all the source code stored on Mercedes' GitHub enterprise server, according to Red Hunt Labs. I guess this and the loss of Lewis Hamilton made for a really bad week. I mean, if you keep up with such things. But the breach occurred originally on the 29th of September and was not noticed until the 11th of January. Of course, it's hard to spot these things, right? But Mercedes, then revoked the token on the 24th of January. Apparently, they still had not been notified. I don't know who notified whom in this case. But on the 24th of January, they finally revoked the token, which they said was 2 days after they were notified about it. The token, which, this basically is a way you can access these repositories with code or anything else. So the token would allow you to access API keys, which would, of course, then allow you to access other stuff, blueprints, cloud access keys, database connection strings. Ooh, those are good. Design documents, source codes, single sign-on passwords. I mean, they've made this long list, but it was like at that point, it was like, yeah, they pretty much could get everything on the whole server. I mean, a lot of really nasty, juicy stuff there that people could have been accessing, and I don't know if they know who accessed this or not. But these kind of exposures cost you, they may not just cost you your designs, like blueprints of that cool new Mercedes, which I've now got a guy building me, but yeah, no, not really. But, they can create a lot of long-term repercussions for you as well from like the lost data, because it can certainly directly allow people to access all sorts of things. And source code means they can go through and see how it works. It may allow them to access things via API keys or tokens. And all of a sudden, they can set up really juicy phishing scenarios as well. I guess my point from that article for you was it would be a really good time to review all your buckets. This is something people don't always do. And you might want to think about that a bit, especially as it distributes more and more and more, and see what's there for the taking. I mean, those of you who got real jobs and drive fancy cars anyway. I mean, for those of us that are driving Reliant Robins, we probably won't notice very much, because last I saw, you couldn't hack a Reliant Robin except by just getting in and then driving away. So, Mercedes. Cloudflare revealed yesterday that someone had used stolen credentials to gain access to some of their internal systems. Never a good thing. The incident was discovered on the 23rd of November, 9 days after the credentials were first used. They said they believe that the attacker is a state-sponsored actor, and they used credentials that were compromised in the October of 2023 Okta hack. You remember that thing? The attackers accessed Cloudflare's internal wiki and bug database. So bad. And then after that Okta incident back in October, the reason this happened, Cloudflare failed to rotate tokens, account credentials, and other things that were in the Okta attack. And that basically meant the attacker could recon the company starting in November and, of course, have credentials they could use once they figured out where they fit. The attackers accessed an AWS environment as well as Atlassian Jira and Confluence, but they were unable to reach the Okta instance and the Cloudflare dashboard. So I don't know if they were trying to get back to Okta or not. But once they had access to Atlassian, the attacker began reconning the network and searching the wiki for and these were some of the things they searched for in the article: remote access, secrets, client secrets, Open Connect, Cloudflared, and tokens. 36 Jira tickets and 202 wiki pages were accessed total. On the 16th, they created an Atlassian account so they could log back in later. I mean, this is a standard tactic and one I would certainly use if it was me. So, I want to get off that stolen account as quick as I can and make a nice new account that they won't recognize so I can get in whenever I want. And then on the 20th of November, they went back to that new account to see probably if it had been found out and disabled. On the 22nd of November, they installed Sliver Adversary Emulation Framework, which, that's going to allow them persistent access to that server. So now they've got a backdoor. They can get in whenever they want. They then used the Atlassian server for lateral movement across the company. They viewed 120 code repositories and downloaded 76 of them to the Atlassian server, probably so they could, access them at will, but they didn't apparently exfiltrate them. Now, that just, to me, means they probably exfiltrated them some other way, like with screenshots, or maybe they just didn't detect. But or maybe they were worthless, I don't know. But most of the code repositories were related to how backups work. So they also had how the global network is configured and managed, how identity works at Cloudflare, remote access, how their Terraform systems and their Kubernetes systems work. And yeah, okay, that's bad. The small number of exposed secrets that were included in all this were rotated immediately. Cloudflare said they blocked the known IPs that this was coming from and removed the Sliver framework on the 24th of November. They did say there was no evidence that the threat actors accessed their global network, customer database, or any other information except the data in the Atlassian suite and the server where they run Atlassian. Now, if you don't know, that Atlassian stuff is typically software and project planning tools, so it creates tickets and helps you organize those jobs if you don't know anything about Atlassian products. Cloudflare rotated then more than 5,000 individual production credentials and examined almost 5,000 systems closely. I mean, talk about an effort. They then re-imaged and rebooted every machine in their global network. Yikes. That's called a bad day, week, and month in the business. They did not say, however, in this article, which nation state they thought was behind it. And they didn't actually mention why they thought it was a nation state. I don't know if it was because of the IP addresses or what, but it might be a really good time to review your plans for your actions when someone else is compromised that you are involved with. This is sort of that when you get the call from the health department thing about that rash. You might want to think about that, even if yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, the whole thing came from the Okta hack, and primarily because they did not rotate all the things when the Okta hack was reported. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, which is called CISA or CISA. I say CISA, you say CISA. I'll be in Scotland before you. But CISA issued a supplemental directive. See, I said CISA that time. A supplemental directive on Wednesday about recent high-severity flaws in Ivanti Connect Secure and Policy Secure VPN products. The directive calls for all federal, civilian, executive branch agencies to disconnect all affected devices by the 3rd of February, which is tomorrow. Yeah, and they didn't say patch, they said disconnect. Now, this followed Ivanti releasing patches for all the known vulnerabilities on the 31st of January. And I think they did this because what they released was so dire. Some of the recent vulnerabilities would let attackers perform lateral movement, data exfiltration, establishment of persistent system access, and so forth. Mandiant indicated there was broad exploitation activity both by the original attacker, who's called UNC 5221, and other, quote, uncategorized threat groups going on currently. Now, Mandiant has associated UNC 5221 with China. But CISA, if you get a CISA mandate, all civilian federal agencies in the United States are required to comply. But look, if you're using these Ivanti products, it is very advisable that you pay heed to this as well, because they are not just targeting, U.S. civilian agencies. That's not the point. CISA doesn't have authority over you, but if you have these products, you got a problem. Here's the recommendations, and this is very likely why they told you to disconnect it. It said the devices should be disconnected until you have done the following: exported the configs, completed a factory reset per Ivanti's instructions, rebuilt the device per Ivanti's instructions, and upgraded to one of the supported software versions on the Ivanti download portal. Not just a simple patch. This is literally rebuilding the whole thing from the ground up. Now, I mean, this is bad. So even if you aren't required to do this, you should very likely fix this now, or you are going to get exploited. I'm serious. I'm always serious. A botnet that's been run by Chinese-based attackers allegedly has been disrupted by the United States Department of Justice. Now, the Department of Justice, of course, is where the FBI is housed. The DOJ and FBI said that the KV botnet, which was being run by the group Volt Typhoon, was focused on disrupting critical American infrastructure, which doesn't mean they're not trying to disrupt your infrastructure too, but, it's the FBI. Volt Typhoon is believed to be state-sponsored by the Chinese, the People's Republic of China. The operation was confirmed by the FBI after Reuters news agency revealed that the action had happened on the 29th of January. The Volt Typhoon botnet is quite interesting and actually pretty clever. It's focused on the insecure end-of-life SOHO routers. And the FBI said that, quote, China's hackers are targeting American civilian critical infrastructure, pre-positioning to cause real-world harm to American citizens and communities in the event of conflict. Very Chinese concept. Think long-term, play the long game. The botnet allowed the Chinese actors to hide as they targeted communications, energy, transportation, and water sectors. At least that's what they know they did. The focus on SOHO, which stands for small office, home office, if you're not familiar with that term, means that these are routers that could literally have unbelievable numbers of launching points. Because, guess what? Most every domicile in the world at this point, at least in the West and first world countries, have SOHO devices on board. Those devices are often not well maintained, well monitored, patched, and they're very likely old. I mean, has your great aunt Ida patched that TP-Link router that you set up for them back in 2010 and they still use it to access AOL? My friend Lou, he was running a tomato router that I built on one of those WRT. I wrote 300N, but I don't think it was a 300N. It was one of those really old Netgear, I think. It was a WRT router that you could actually replace all the, the software with. And I had built that thing back in like 2006 or something for him. And I think I patched it once in 2012, but he wasn't big on the patching, not when it might interfere with the drinking and guitar playing. He's like, we'll patch it tomorrow, have a drink. And you know how that goes. But it might not be a bad idea for you to think about either your stuff at home or your employees and what they're using to connect to you. Because, I mean, I hate to be intrusive, but it's kind of scary when you think about it, right? Now, if you've never seen Tomato Router, it's pretty cool. If you've never looked at it, I really, there's a lot of these sort of home rolled routers you can build up for your borders, which is pretty cool if you don't want to buy like a used Cisco router or something. But they are nice if you've never looked at one. Give it a look sometime. They did not list any specific brands of devices that were being targeted specifically in the article, but it was probably all of them. GIGO is an old term. It means garbage in, garbage out. It was a term from the 60s, I think like 1964, 67, something like that. It was a programmer at IBM that came up with it, apparently. Basically, what it means is if you add X and Y to get Z and the value of X is bad, well, guess what? Transitive property, Z is also going to be bad. Sorry about doing algebra for you, especially if it's before noon and before the drinking hour. But, math nerds, airspeed velocities of unladen swallows in a vacuum, that kind of thing. I mean, it's fun. But anyway, despite my love of our new AI overlords and being on the waiting list to have Elon put a chip in my head, which apparently started this week too, it's kind of worrisome in terms of learning. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been using a lot of AI for various things because it's really, really handy. Being able to turn to ChatGPT and say, like just the other day, I said, ChatGPT, can you give me a really good simplified example of voice cod normal form? Because I wanted to use it in class, to explain things. I had my example. I had a book example. And I didn't like either one of them. And I asked ChatGPT and it gave me a pretty good example. But much like you can teach children and cats, well, you can't teach cats much, but you can teach children all sorts of stupid things. I won't get into naming all the stupid things I hear about being taught to children, but we do the same thing to AI, sometimes intentionally. Sometimes they do that to children intentionally. I mean, if there's data in a training set for a large language model, well, the AI doesn't know if it's true or false. It just assumes it's real. Somebody put it in there. It could be poison data. It could be unintentional data. Maybe it's just because it was looking at X. But AI is so useful, and replicants almost never leave their attack ships burning off the shoulder of Orion and come back to Earth to start flipping over tortoises, right? Tortai? What is the plural of tortoise? Anyway, I mean, I failed my VoIP comp test 3 times before I got in, but hey, I'm here. But where was I? Okay. But, as organizations, maybe yours are hopping on the Blame the Mono Express to straight to AI. Anybody get that reference? Blame the Mono? Really? Dark Tower fans? Come on. Really? Well, the article is about shadow data that may be already in the system. I mean, what if information, that is presented as facts, meaning it's learned, what if it's in there? I mean, there's humans that believe in all sorts of ridiculous things that they learned somewhere. I mean, when babies are born, they don't believe much of anything except, hey, I'd like to eat. And, oh, clean that up, would you? I mean, the earth is not flat, all right? But guess what? There's all kinds of data out there. Maybe it's coming from Terry Pratchett novels. Who knows? But anyway, think about that a bit. That data's out there. There's people with supposed, it's usually circular logic nonsense, proof of all these conspiracies and cover-ups. Well, that stuff's leaking into our data. So I was kind of put this article up because I was kind of hoping maybe it would get you thinking about some more of that training data because, you're probably going to want to consider that carefully. The Federal Communications Commission, or FCC in the United States, wants to make AI-powered robocalls illegal and is warning about rising waves of scams from voice cloning technology. So maybe I don't have a date with Natalie Portman tomorrow night. I don't know. I mean, it seemed real. But, last month during the New Hampshire primary, a call which sounded like U.S. President Joe Biden was calling people and telling them not to vote in the presidential primary. You wouldn't fall for it? Of course not. But remember those people that think the earth is flat? Yeah, they're out there too. And they fall for a lot of stuff. But what if an old friend called you in their voice and asked you for help? I mean, Al Fagan and the Artful Dodgers calling to teach you how to pick locks? Well, maybe. AI is cheaper, faster, and easier than dealing with human scam artists who can only work 8 hours a day since they unionized. The AI callers, hey, they can work it 24/7 as fast as that thing can dial in multiple instances, multi-threaded, and on and on and on. So the bill, which is being introduced, is called the Do Not Disturb Act, and it would require telemarketers to disclose whether AI has been used to craft a message used in text to phone calls. I don't know how that's going to stop them, but, they'll have a little fine print down there that says AI used for the... penalties would apply if they impersonate someone. Oh, no. They said that AI voice cloning should be criminalized, which I kind of agree with. But it's not going to stop it. That guy that calls my phone 4 times a day about my car warranty, Mike, it's a real person, I think. I've talked to him. Could we ban that too, please? I told you no, Mike. And no means no, unless it's a car warranty. And then it means keep calling until I concede or burn my house down. Well, Congress, where hearings are held, outrage is expressed, pearls are clutched, but at the 11th hour, we pass a motion to recognize alfalfa as the official green of Calaveras County and not much else. Anyway, Congress held hearings again this week and summoned a bunch of billionaires from Silicon Valley, Meta, TikTok, Snapchat, Discord, X, all the biggies, and they asked them about children's safety online. Think of the children. Meanwhile, Congressman Fleurig denied reports that he ate a baby in a restaurant in NoHo last year and said, prove it. Pictures were denied, but I might have made that up. But the Congress was concerned. Very concerned, I tell you. The CEOs were concerned. Oh, the children. Everyone was concerned because, the children. But then they went and talked to the children. And by children, they meant, people under the age of 40, apparently, because they were citing the ages. I was like, wait, these people are 26 years old. They're not children. But the children were commenting a lot on Discord. Now, remember, the average age of senators in the U.S. is 64 years old, and some of them were born before the continents broke away from Pangea. But the young people had a lot to say. I doubt the Congress knows what Discord is, but, they were saying it on Discord. The young people said, and I agree with them, that this is all about controlling information. I looked at who the sponsors of that bill were. I know what they're trying to do. They want to see what you're up to. And the best quote from one of the children, supposedly, was, if Congress wants to protect children, maybe they should pass a privacy law. Wow, from the mouths of babes. How about instead of all this pearl clutching, we just pass I was about to swear there because it gets me really worked up. How about a privacy law, guys? No? Alfalfa is now the official green of the U.S.? Yeah, that kind of stuff. Another quote said the kids' online safety bill was just an effort to control information and that the Congress was trying to demonize the CEOs, which pretty easy target, but they wanted support for their bill, so they make the CEO, they drag Zuckerberg out there and get him to say something weird, and, Elon fires up the bong in front of Congress and all that kind of stuff. But the kid safety bill would require digital platforms to, quote, take reasonable measures to prevent harm to children and require some settings to be in place that opponents say would actually endanger children, would limit free speech, and the free speech advocates say it does exactly the opposite of what it says. Of course it does. Always read all congressional bill titles backwards, or not backwards, but like inverted. If it says children's safety bill, it actually means something else. But opponents say that the bill would allow the collection of even more sensitive data on children by these companies and adults because they're going to collect it on you too. It violates the First Amendment. It imposes legal mandates that are unenforceable, and it limits access to the internet for most everyone. Usually when they start talking about the children, it's bad. Anytime I see that, I'm going, oh no. Pass a damn privacy law, please. Copy the GDPR. They already wrote one. It's not bad. Read the article, or better yet, read the law that they're trying to pass and call your Congress people and tell them what you think. Okay? Robocall them. Why not? Right? I mean, it works both ways. There was a god, an underwater god, who controlled the sea and got killed by 10 million pounds of sludge from New York and New Jersey. It rhymes if you'd read it that way. And that god's name was Aaran Leyland. Hi, Aaron.
We just had some live feedback on LinkedIn of all places. Excuse name, but it's the Howie just saying we're doing an excellent job. So that's me with enough get up and go to do this for another 10 years. What about you?
Yeah, I think that would work. Makes sense to me.
one compliment, 10 years. Let's go for it.
Yeah, everybody needs a little kudos, every decade or so.
Yeah, if anybody else wants to shout out, then they might make it onto the show.
Yeah, there you go.
Can be as not famous as we are.
Exactly. You can be not recognized everywhere you go.
Apart from that one conference.
Well, yeah, there was that one time, but...
Exactly. Oh, well, let's not talk about it. Okay. This week's story comes from a couple of places, and you can find the links in the show notes, as always. Telegram marketplaces fuel phishing attacks with easy-to-use kits and malware. So, Telegram has become a breeding ground for modern phishing. What an insidious place it is. The cyber criminals, bless them, and their constant evolving ingenuity have found a new breeding ground, Telegram. It's like I wrote it like there was meant to be surprise there, but spoiled it in the title. But anyway, once a messaging platform known for its privacy features, it is morphed into a thriving marketplace for readily available tools and resources that empower even novice actors to launch sophisticated phishing campaigns. There you go. This democratization, I don't know why I ever write that word. I can never say it. Democratization of cybercrime, as outlined in the Scammers Paradise report by Guardio Labs, possesses a significant threat to individuals and organizations, demanding immediate attention and decisive action from us, the cybersecurity community. So let's get on it, all right? So from invite-only forums to full open channels, which means, alas, gone are the days when phishing tools resided in the shadows of invite-only dark web forums. This avenue of access is now an undecillion times easier. Don't you just love the word undecillion? And I bet most of you to know the word, especially all you crazy CCNA people. So today, Telegram channels and groups team with thousands of users, probably more, openly exchanging illicit goods like scam pages, email sending kits, and even letters, which today I'm informed are expertly crafted email templates designed to mimic legitimate communication. So I've learned a new term, an everyday school term. A school term? Every day's school day, off a term, and all that jazz. This accessibility, coupled with free samples and trial versions, paints a disturbing picture. Barriers to entry for aspiring cyber criminals have disappeared, opening the floodgates to large-scale phishing operations at alarmingly low costs. Do you know, really, if I was not a law-abiding citizen, at least once a day, doing some sort of cybercrime passes my mind. But it was made worse this week by last night finishing in another one of John Strand's courses, and I definitely feel I could hide in the noise. I'm so going to end up in a gulag. Next week's show from the Russian gulag. Anyway, from chump change to big bucks, unlike my now defunct crypto portfolio, the report states a scary reality. Just 230 of them bucks can equip an attacker with the arsenal to launch a full-fledged phishing campaign. Pre-built scam pages, often mimicking well-known brands, eliminate the need for technical expertise. Not that we had any anyway. Web shells and backdoor mailers leverage compromised legitimate websites for increased credibility and bypass spam filters. Stolen credentials sold as logs fetch hefty sums, bank accounts and credit cards commanding apparently hundreds of dollars. So this lucrative ecosystem fuels a fire, attracting more players, as they're calling them, and perpetuating the cycle. We, the professionals, all know we can do this for free with a simple download of E-Coli, just one of the easy options. But that is not the point. The point is that the entry-level knowledge for this type of crime is now low, very low, a bit like my expectations. And many other things. Anyway, in my own experience recently of being on the internet and stuff, I have personally felt a spike in phishing, although I can't say whether this is the reason, but I definitely have seen more phishing. The consequences extend far beyond individual financial losses. Compromised websites used for phishing not only damage their own reputation, but also, do they care, but also create vulnerabilities within the broader digital ecosystem. Targeted email lists often containing sensitive personal information. Just look at the DNC hacks, which Scott can tell you all about in his book Fancy Bears Goes Phishing, which I talked about on Tuesday. They raise privacy concerns and highlight the need for stricter data security practices. This interconnectedness, now that is a good triple word score, demands a collective response, one that goes beyond the individual user awareness and delves into platform accountability and industry-wide collaboration. What a utopian world I want us all to live in. Anyway, a call to action, because we all love that. heightened vigilance. Security professionals must closely monitor Telegram. Go do it. Empowering defenders. Organizations must prioritize website security, patching vulnerabilities. Of course you should. Do it. Disrupting the marketplace. This is funny anyway. Collaborative efforts between security vendors, law enforcement, and platforms like Telegram are essential to disrupt cybercrime. It's a shame nobody likes to play with each other, is it? And then exploring technological solutions. There was a bit about the potential blockchain technology to disrupt anonymity and trace stolen credentials. And apparently this is a new avenue, but I thought blockchain had gone away just like AOL and Ask Jeeves. Who knows? The Scammers Paradise Report, which this all comes from, does serve as a stark wake-up call, or at least something like this, as nothing in cyber seems stark these days. We are totally desensitized to the badness, and we probably need a cyber nuke to wake us from this sleep. Anyhow, by understanding the inner workings of Telegram's cybercrime ecosystem and its far-reaching implications, the cybersecurity community can develop a comprehensive and collaborative response to mitigate this growing threat. And I put my hand across my heart again. I don't know which one it's meant to be, but I can't use my mouse, so it's probably the right way round. Only through collective action can we protect individuals, organizations, and the digital landscape from the ever-evolving tactics of malicious actors lurking in the shadows where Doug lurks, of seemingly innocuous platforms. Hey, wasn't the world a nicer place before messaging apps and end-to-end encryption? Or is it only the intelligence community which believes this? Anyway, there we go. Back to Dr. Dub in the studio, who has the best Telegram channel. You should message him and ask him if you can join. Dare you. Peace out, party people.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron, especially for helping on Tuesday as well as today. And
You're welcome.
Finally, okay, this is a weird one, right? I mean, an MIT graduate student outlined a method for creating a doom display. Okay, nothing near there. In a washing machine? Nah. What, a smart toilet? No. I mean, listen to this. The title was 1-bit pixels encoded in E-Coli for the display of interactive digital media. It was a final project in a Principles of Synthetic Biology class. That doesn't sound scary at all. Earlier research that had already been done had described how the DNA in E. coli could be used to encode full digital circuits and cause the bacteria to fluoresce as a crude display mechanism. I had a crude display mechanism going on Tuesday, and it might have involved E. coli. I'm not sure. But, they didn't actually develop the code. They said it would have taken a long time to write, but they did manage to describe how it could be done. So some of you will do it. I mean, now I programmed on some old systems, let me tell you, but coding on an E. coli bacteria sounds messy. And don't forget and scratch your eyes or anything, like, oops, I touched my face. That's it. You may want to bring a bucket along for your E. coli coding frenzy as well. And anyway, I will be live next at the Millennium Alliance CISO meeting at the JW Marriott in Atlanta, Georgia on the 26th of February and 27th. So see you there if you're coming. Thanks, Aaron. I'll see you next week on the Security Weekly News.